Hello, this is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we are here and we are with Olivia Gaines.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Olivia. We are so glad you are here today to talk to us. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Introduce yourself.
I am Olivia Gaines. I'm a USA Today best-selling author of contemporary romance laced with heart and humor. And if you want to read more about me, you can go to my website at www.ogaines.com, OGAINES.com.
All right. So, Miss Olivia, tell us, how long have you been an author?
Let me back that up and kind of qualify and quantify that. I am a journalist by trade. So I went to college to become a journalist. So I am a card-carrying member of the Fifth Estate. I'm still a member. I started out doing newspapers, writing for my high school paper, my elementary school paper, my college newspaper. I wrote for the Army because I was a public affairs officer in the Army as well. And when I kind of got out of the Army, I went back to graduate school and I got a degree in business because I wanted to make some money. But I was also a new wife and all of that good stuff. And we were stationed at Fort Huachuca in Arizona. And my husband got sent to Korea for a year. So it was me and this child. And I took a job at a university. And I ended up getting my master's degree at no cost because I was an employee. But after that, I ended up going to school again and getting my doctorate because my husband said, I wanted to make sure that you have everything that you wanted to do out of the way. And that's how it kind of started. And I started writing short stories, but I was writing traditional literary fiction. And then and my sister was avid reader. Every time you looked around, she had a book in her hand. She was reading a romance. She would devour those Harlequin romances. And I'm like, yeah,
I love those too.
I think we all started with those. And after a while, I'm like, I don't want to read this. These women don't look anything like me. These life experiences don't equate to my life experiences. And I was teaching at a local junior college here for 3 years. And I was teaching contemporary literature, and I had just gotten completely burned out because we were teaching, but we had to re-socialize the students in order for them to you went from high school to this workforce where you were making bare minimum. So now you're trying to get into a job where you're going to have benefits and all of this stuff. So we found we had to re-socialize them before we could teach them. And after 3 years of that, I was completely burned out. And my husband said, you've been teaching writing for years. Why don't you write? And so I sat down and I started going through images. And, I had these stories that I submitted to traditional publications, and I kept getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And it took a toll on me. I took to my couch and I didn't comb my hair. I don't think I showered for a week or maybe 2, maybe 3. And,
Depression, I think the depression is real.
Depression is very, very real, especially when you're trying to do something that you have been trained to do. Right. And there are people telling you,
and that rejection.
You're not doing it very well. And what you're doing, nobody wants to read. And I'm like, that's not true. And so I was reading all of this stuff on self-publishing and how, so I ran across this picture of this man and this woman. And I'm like, well, that looks like something that happens in Vegas. And I got my son, who had been to graphic design school, to make me a book cover. And I wrote this short story and I put it out there. And I came back 3 days later and had sold 500 copies of it.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait, what? And people, and I saw that. I made a quick website, and people started reaching out to me on the website. And in the story, I had typos. I had the heroine. She was allergic to peanuts and eating the Snickers.
I've been there.
And people were like, you know, they were giving me warns, well, you're no Pepper Pace, you're no Sienna Minks. And I'm like, I don't know who those people are. So I had to go look them up, and I looked them up, and I'm like, oh, okay. So this is what they write. All right. So let me kind of. So I went back and I started, I edited and I redid it. And I got a website and people started writing, well, what's next? Well, what's next? And I'm like, well, okay, well, let me write part two. And I wrote part two, and then I started getting smacked. Well, it's entirely too much romance in it, you know. So I said,
Wasn't it a romance novel?
it was a romance. It was leaning more toward erotica. Because, you know,
Okay.
when you first start writing romance, you think that you're supposed to, you know,
To go all the way.
Yeah, every chapter, you don't know any better. You just, hey, man, woman, let's go, party. And so I sat down and I said, what if we have this gorgeous Black woman that goes on a cruise to Mexico, and she wakes up handcuffed to a gigantic white man covered in some sticky and wearing a wedding ring.
Oh.
And I wrote it and I put it out there. And then I wrote the next one and I wrote the next one. And years later, I was putting them out every 6 months, and it was called the Blakemore Files.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. And we'll come back to the Blakemore Files when we come back.
To the Blakemore Files.
Yes. This is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We are here today talking to Miss Olivia Gaines. We are here talking about being an author today. This is Women's History Month, and we want to know, how are women writing? We'll be right back.
Well, I think you know you stopped me in my tracks. First you're here, then gone in a flash. Might be something, don't let it pass. I'm right here wondering where you're at. Now let's take a ride in the old Ford truck. Head out of town and maybe you'll come around. I know when the loving feels right. Maybe, just maybe, this is one of those nights. Come on girl, take a ride with me. You never know, never know where it might lead. Oh. I want you to know what I'm made of.
Hi, this is Live with Michelle Vann, where we're talking about health, wealth, and spirituality. We are here and we are talking to Olivia Gaines. She's a best-selling author, and she is telling us a little bit more about her Blakely Files. Let's hear a
The
little bit more.
Blakemore Files. The Blakemore Files.
Blakemore, yes.
The Blakemore
Let's hear
Files.
it. So how did we get to that?
The Blakemore Files actually put me on the map as a writer, because when I started to check the numbers, I was selling copies in Australia.
Oh,
Yeah,
so you became international.
I became
This
international.
was what, your second book?
It was my first series.
Okay, first series,
Yes.
and you become international.
Yes, and then I was at a conference almost 2, maybe 3 years into the series, and I'm standing there speaking, and I said, they have no sex in them.
Okay,
And
let's go back just a second. How long have you been writing?
at that point, I had only been writing 3 years.
And that's how long from right now?
From right now, I'm going into 10 years as a
Okay.
full-time.
Because, and I think that's important, because I think sometimes people will write a book today and they expect to go international tomorrow.
Oh, no.
And so I want to give people that a realistic view of, you didn't just come out, write a book, and then the next book you wrote was all of a sudden, no, I'm international and I'm a best-selling author.
And I also started out writing novellas, because my first story was a novella. The one
Explain that, because maybe people may not know what that is.
A novel is about anywhere between 50,000 and 80,000 words. An epic novel, if you've ever read Game of Thrones or anything by Tolkien, that is an epic. A novella is something thin, like a chapbook. It may only be 15 chapters, it may be 25, 30,000 words, somewhere around 80 pages. So that was the Blakemore Files. They were nice, succinct stories. Because what I did, I took what I learned in college, all of that literary fiction, and I overlaid that onto romance writing. So I was writing for adult women who didn't have a lot of time to sit there and be invested in a 200-page book. I can give you everything that you want, but you can read it in two or 3 days on your commute on the train or
in the bathtub.
Or in the bathtub, and you get the whole experience without all the fluff and me describing the crack in the wallpaper on the wall. So with the Blakemore Files, like I said, I was there at the conference and I'm standing up and I'm telling them, I said, this series has absolutely no sex in it. And it got quiet. And I leaned forward and I said, see, you can't tell me I can't write because you didn't even notice. And the whole room just exploded in applause because they are reading this story and it's a man and a woman and he's talking about having his breakfast and that's all he ever calls it. I'm just going to get my breakfast. And they just allowed their mind to wonder as to what else was happening. And I never went in any detail.
So people just use their own imagination because the words that you put on there led them to be able to fill in the blank for themselves.
Exactly. And even now, I have several best-selling series. One of them is The Modern Mail Order Brides, and we were talking about that earlier with Catherine Moves to Kansas, because I'm doing all 50 states. I'm finding those little gems in every state, and these are successful women who marry men who live off the grid. I think this was one of the only ones where he didn't live off the grid. But I wanted to write stories where we saw ourselves and we saw ourselves loving and having a happily ever after. Because I don't know why they believe that Black women don't have good marriages, good relationships, good families, and why we are not able to have a happily ever after when we do. You know?
And so as you're writing these, you are focusing on having these Black relationships that are healthy relationships, or not so healthy relationships.
They're healthy relationships. They're working through finding a way to live together as a man and a wife. Because what people don't understand about marriage is two people being invested toward the same goal.
Absolutely.
No, I can't change who I am for you. The thing is, can you love me as I am, for who I am? And then we find a happy medium. And that's what I'm writing. I'm writing two very different people whose common goal is, I want to come home to somebody and I want to be loved. But I don't want to change everything that I am and who I am in order to be a part of your life. I'll make some adjustments. But I think we're only gonna do so much.
I can't become a different person.
I can't become a different person in order to love you. And I don't need you to be some textbook example of a boyfriend. And I tell people all the time, I do not write book boyfriends. I write book husbands. Because
let's come back to that. Why you don't write about boyfriends. This is Live with Michelle Vann, where we're talking to Olivia Gaines. We're talking a little bit about writing and looking at being an author from the Black woman's perspective. This is a good conversation that we're having today. So make sure you come back to the next segment. All right, this is Live with Michelle Vann. We are here and we are talking to Miss Olivia Gaines, and we are talking about why she does not write boyfriends into her stories. She writes husbands. Come on. I think that's important. So let's talk about that.
It is important because a boyfriend is something that's transitional. You know, I think as women, we've had enough transitions in our
Right.
lives. And I don't want to write any transitional men that may be passing through. I
Mhm.
want to write foundation builders, because once you have that foundation, you can start yourself on a personal healing journey that I don't have to worry whether or not in 6 months one of us is going to have to move.
Right.
If, as my husband, we are working toward this permanent thing. Our next step is, once we get everything situated, is to, start a family and start
Right.
building and become part of a community, and have other married friends so that we can
Yeah.
grow and be bigger. And it's difficult sometimes when I read books that the boyfriend is kind of a bully,
Right.
or there is so much trauma in the story. We all have a story to tell,
Right.
and writing can be very cathartic,
Mhm.
and it can be a very healing process. And there are a lot of stories that delve into a good deal of the traumas that we as women go through. I
So
don't think
tell me a little bit about that though. How do you see writing as being a way to deal with some of that trauma?
I think writing is a way for you to get it out of your head, because sometimes that trauma can replay itself over and over and over again, keeping you almost frozen in place, frozen in time, frozen in the moment, reliving that trauma over and over and over again. But once you take out a piece of paper and you start putting it on paper, you look down and you read back on it, it is no longer in your head. It is in the
I like
world.
that.
It is live. And now you can start to address what you're actually seeing versus holding on to what you've been feeling.
Yeah, I like that. So
Okay.
you're taking it from a feeling to an actual, this is reality. This is what happened.
And now,
Now we can process through it.
right. And now I have to make some decisions as to what I'm going to do with this information that I've written down, because I don't want my child to find this information and know that
Mm,
inside I'm broken and
yeah,
I didn't do anything to heal, because broken people make broken people.
that's
Okay.
true. And
Okay.
how do you feel? Because I know that sometimes people will say, be careful as you are writing, as you are sharing, not to bleed onto other people, because sometimes we see people that write and they're writing about the trauma, but they haven't processed it enough.
Mhm.
And so they're more bleeding than it's cathartic. And so how do you kind of bridge that gap or help people bridge that gap?
That I can honestly say I don't have an answer for,
Okay.
because the writing journey is a very personal journey.
Mm,
And I write for fun, I write for joy. When you read my books, you're having a joyful experience. I may have harsh materials in there, but I presented it in a way that allows the characters to also heal from it and grow from it.
okay.
But individuals who write those kind of materials and they're bleeding onto the page, they were not the only person involved in the accident.
True. That is true.
You know what I'm saying? You'll see people, well, I was in a car accident and this person hit me, and oh, I've been wearing this neck brace. But what you don't know is what the person who in the other vehicle was going through,
Right.
why they weren't paying attention, why they were taken out of the moment, why they didn't have both hands on the wheels, why they were drinking to the point that it just got them to a point where they just, okay, I just need to get home, and they made the bad decision. It
Right.
doesn't just happen. Trauma doesn't just happen to you.
Okay.
Yes, there's this trauma that has been inflicted upon you, but the broken person who inflicted the trauma
Mm,
also experience trauma that they are just replaying over and over again in real time, because they never had a chance to heal from it themselves. So when you're writing that kind of material and it starts to bleed on the page, step back, grab some mala beads or your rosary beads, whatever you need to just kind of take it down a little bit. And then it may be time to consider getting some help outside of what's
Right.
happening on the page and in your head.
So as you write, do you tend to actually physically write, or do you tend to get out a computer and write that way?
I map out everything. I've got 35 journals over on this side of me that anytime I need to pull a reference from a story before or a story after, I have everything. Sorry about that. I'm going to pull one. Like this one,
Okay.
I remade the cover. And then I'll have, like, if it's going to be a 7-point story or a regular story. And I use the traditional model. Let me see if I get that without the glare.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
yeah, a traditional plot model where I
Okay.
will actually sit there and plot it out. But I'm meticulous. I'm anal. So I'll have all kinds of notes in the journal as to the houses that they live in, all of that kind of stuff, the floor plans, those kind of notes. And then I keep within that pocket. It's a rough outline. And then I'll just sit at my computer and I know what's happening in that chapter and those scenes.
Okay. We have one more section. It is amazing. This goes really fast.
It does.
This is Live with Michelle Vann. We were talking about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we're talking with Olivia Gaines, and we will be right back.
Well, I think you stop me in my tracks. First you're here, then gone in a flash. Might be something, don't let it pass. I'm right here wondering where you're at. Now let's take a ride in the old Ford truck. Head out of town and maybe you'll come around. I know when the loving feels right. Maybe, just maybe, this is one of those nights. Come on girl, take a ride with me. You never know, never know where it might lead. Oh, I want you to know what I'm made of.
Here we go. Hello, this is Live with Michelle Vann. We are talking to Miss Olivia Gaines. We are in our last section for today, but we really want to talk about publishing. You talked about that you went from kind of having that where you were pitching to someone else to self-publishing. And I know a lot of people are intimidated by that self-publishing piece. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. And I also know that people think that, I can write a book today and I'm going to be rich tomorrow. So I want us to kind of have that conversation because I think that we want to help people to have a reality check, I guess, if you will,
Okay.
about what does publishing look like.
Okay, so if you're doing traditional publishing and you're submitting to like the big five, HarperCollins, or a subsidiary of one of those like Kensington Books, which publishes Christian fiction and Christian romance. Normally what happens is that they'll give you a contract and they are contractually own that story for X number of years. If you get an advance of say maybe $50,000, that advance is royalties. So basically they've given you $50,000 and you have to earn them back their $50,000. And everything after that is part of your royalty. There'll be a 70-30 or 30-70 split, and you'll get like 30%. So if you have a hardbound book, your royalty basically off of that hardbound book would be $1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So you basically have to make $50,000 for them, and then everything after the $50,000 you start to get your piece. So if you're New York Times or USA Today best-selling, you've made back the money and then some. So if you sold 100,000 books, then hey, you got $100,000. Now, if you are a self-published author, you're doing a 70-30 split with Amazon or Barnes and Noble, Nook, or any of those places. And it's a 70-30 split. So if the book is $3.99, you may get $2.97. And you get that 60 days after. So you still have to sell a whole lot of books to eat well.
And I think
Okay.
that's the thing that people don't understand is, they see a book and they, like, oh, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna get rich. It's not really like that.
Yes.
And so as you have been on your journey, you said it's been about 10 years that you've been writing. What is the thing that you have in hindsight just said, I wish I would have known?
Ooh, do you want me to start a list? I actually became successful by accident. I was writing what no one else was writing, but I didn't understand. I knew marketing because I had worked in marketing. So I was able to put my message out of what it was I was doing and how I was doing it. But if I had known, I would have put me together a team. My team of beta readers, my team of editors, my team of proofreaders, my team of cover designers. Because in order to succeed in this business, whether you are traditionally published or self-published, you need a team. You have to have that team in order for it to work and to work well.
And I think that's probably one of the things is that because we think of self-publishing as being a single, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it by myself. We don't think about that team.
No, I have an agent, I have a publisher, I have a proofreader, and I still have typos in there because when it comes back, I'm still making changes. I should leave it alone and just publish it. I have authors that I work with, that I meet with weekly just to keep me in the pocket and to keep me on track and to keep me honest in my words. Because that's the thing, you want to be honest in your words because readers take ownership of you. And
go ahead.
Readers take ownership of you. So if you don't write what they want, kind of like the movie Misery, they will punish you. They punish you. I'm not kidding. I released Catherine Moves to Kansas and somebody didn't like that it wasn't a traditional Black woman and they out the gate gave me a 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that 1 in release week prevented me from hitting the #1 spot with that book.
Wow.
Yeah. They punished me, but that's okay. I'm going to write what I need to write. I'm going to let the characters dictate to me the story. And I'm going to grow as an author, whether they want me to or not. So they can try to punish me all they want.
She said, I'm going to drink my tea.
And we're going to keep it moving because I've been doing it long enough to know when someone's being petty or when someone is pointing out areas of improvement.
Right. When it's a legit thing versus.
When it's a legit thing versus, I'm not letting you have your way. I'm not going to give in to that. Because when I started doing this, I would get a bad review and it would put me down. It would put me in the bed and I would have to just lay there and I'm like, I don't know these people. These people don't know me. So I had to get past that and think about my own journey and what I wanted to accomplish and what I wanted to achieve with my writing.
Guess what? Our time is up.
What?
I know. I know. So here's the thing. Tell people where they can get their books, where they can find you, where they can connect with you so that they can read some of your books.
Well, if you are on a tight budget and you just filled up your tank, I am available in the library. You can check out Libby or Overdrive. I am available in the library. You can find me on ogains.com. You can find me on any ebook retailer, Barnes & Noble, Walmart retailer, any of those. I do have books in paperback as well as ebooks. If you want to order you a book and have it come to your house, you can do that. My website is www.ogaines.com, where you can send me a note if you order the paperback, and I can send you a signed placard to go in the inside if you would like. You can just drop me a note on the website.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. I always try to lift up Black women in entrepreneurship and women in, especially during this Women's History Month.
know,
We
I
want to
know.
make sure that we're lifting up Black women as we're doing that. So thank you again. I appreciate it. And this is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We will see you again next week.
Thank you for having me.